4:37. And we have a quorum. I think we have everyone. Yay!
Good to see you.
Likewise.
And the chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Wait, you guys getting way ahead of me.
Yeah, it's the pink one.
I know, but I'm looking for something to write notes on.
Oh,
Because I was
there's
gonna
a lot of
more
background.
organized, but
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we started at 4:37. Okay.
And so,
And motion to approve the agenda number one was it you,
I think
Jake?
it's Jake.
Sure.
Who's the second one?
I think we need a second.
Oh,
second
okay.
the motion. Thank you.
Okay.
All in favor of the agenda without changes?
Aye.
We have an agenda. Item 3, public input. Public is invited to present petitions, make announcements, or provide other information to the commission that is relevant to the scope of authority of the city of Blue Lake that is not on the agenda. The commission may provide up to 15 minutes for this public input session. To assure that each individual presentation is heard, the commission may uniformly impose time limits of 3 minutes to each individual presentation. The public will be given the opportunity to address items that are on the agenda at the time the commission takes up each specific agenda item. At this time, we have no public, so we can move on to item 4. We have minutes from the previous meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our August 8th meeting? Or change?
Well, I could make a motion to approve those minutes.
We have a first
I can second it.
and a second. All in favor to approve the minutes as presented?
Aye.
Ayes.
Darcy and you.
And that brings us to item 5, Blue Lake Grocery Mercantile store development discussion. How exciting.
It
Yeah.
really is.
Keeping our
Yeah.
fingers crossed. So I just wanted to provide an update to the commission about the conversations that are going forward regarding the proposed grocery mercantile store at the Lindstrands store location. So Hannah Padilla is very interested in this project, and she's met with the property owner. She's been working on her business plan, and um, I've been working fairly closely with her just to provide information and resources to kind of
What's her last name?
Padilla, Padilla.
Spelled like your state senator. Time's up.
E-L-L.
Padillo.
So we had a meeting with the Toasties, and they're fairly enthusiastic about the idea of a grocery store going into the facility. They had actually ran a grocery store in there years ago and said that it had been successful, and they felt like it was a good idea and a good plan, and probably would be successful again. Um, I know Hannah had walked through the building with the property owner, and I think there's some discussions taking place about the price point for the proposed rent, and so I think that's something right now that Hannah's working through to see, kind of backing into some numbers, just looking at what her revenue potential is and what her financial needs will be to get that started. She's been doing some outreach to different local producers to see what kind of interest there is for consignment. I've been also doing some outreach. She had some thoughts about possibly if she could get the building at a reasonable rate that made sense, possibly getting in early and doing kind of a holiday pop-up type market just to get going. She could transition her floral business into the building, and then host various vendors through the holiday season just to have stuff happening, but not, as she's like purchasing inventory and getting things set up. So I haven't talked to Hannah today to see kind of what her conversations have been like, but I did want to provide the EDC kind of an update. I think it's a great project. It's a project that's, really needed in the community. The potential for the generation of sales tax is substantial for the city, and just the need to have kind of that diversified, um, you know, supplies, goods, services in Blue Lake is just kind of the next step of where we need to go.
And I have I there's you said that before that she has experience, and I don't know anything about her.
Yeah, so Hannah runs Arcata Florist,
Oh,
and
okay.
she's ran that for,
She is the one. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
She also in the past has ran a like a smoothie bar business, and she's an experienced cake decorator. She's very interested in foods, kind of more of a healthier type of, holistic approach to eating and just kind of community resiliency. So she's lives here in Blue Lake now and has triplets that are almost 15 years old, and
Oh my.
she's just kind of a Wonder Woman, honestly. She's basically doing her business out of her garage, because when COVID hit, she had to close down her shop because she at that point had, three, what were they, like 11-year-olds at home. And so she's really, just made a go of it and is, has got a lot of enthusiasm for the community as
Good.
well.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I'm sorry I didn't realize who it was.
yeah, so she's done
But
really
she's the one
well.
that's done the florist, the flowers and stuff like
Yeah.
that out of her garage.
Yeah, she's a really amazing floral designer.
Very
Yeah.
much so.
Yeah. Very artistic. So, I could just picture her in there, merchandising the windows and just, really transitioning that space over to something that's, just very attractive. And I think, making it also kind of have that mercantile feel also, brings in a different demographic as well. So you're hitting your locals, you're hitting your tourists. And the mercantile is kind of the higher price point items, that kind of helps to sustain the more, local items that we need if it's, milk and cheese and things, you're kind of backing that off of, the higher markup type items. So, uh,
And it really makes the community more walkable.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. The buildings come up a couple times and it slips, you know, seems like we're so close and then, something happens or someone, it gets rented for a purpose that maybe doesn't meet the overall objective or the best use for the community. But obviously that's, it's difficult with it's, in private ownership and it's all about economics at that point.
Is the building in fairly good shape?
I haven't been in it yet, but it looks like it's in good shape from the outside. I mean, it looks, Leah did a great job, in removing everything, and I mean, it's very empty. So
And are there living quarters upstairs?
there is, yeah, yeah.
Apartments,
There's
plural?
one apartment, and I know the property owner has had some interest in maybe transitioning, like doing some work to make that 2 units, which could be interesting as well. So yeah, and
And
the
is the unit that Sheriff's is in also the Toasties?
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
that won't be impacted by this
No,
portion.
no. In fact, one of the ideas was to be able to use like Cheris's furniture as the displays in the store, and so she could have her furniture on consignment there, but it's merchandising as well. And so, it's like, oh, you could, buy this, but you could also buy that really pretty, armoire that's, got a price tag on it, so everything becomes, for sale at that point.
The unit's not included in the price of the,
No,
yeah,
Somebody
it's
else have it?
separate.
yeah.
And the entrance is separate to the
Hmm.
store.
Yes.
Oh, honey, I'm home.
I haven't been in there.
Yeah, so
I
we'll
think we
just
had a subcommittee formed at our last meeting.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and I think once Hannah gets a little bit further into it, if I mean she's very enthusiastic about the deal and recognizes, I mean she's really had her eyes on that property for a long time. And in the past, her and Leah had even had conversations about possibly working together if she could move her floral business in there. But it didn't quite work out. Everyone's business model was a little bit different and needs were a little different. So we will continue to advocate for that project, and the city we're looking at different ways that we could lend support. Looking at the possibility of working with USDA to maybe purchase some equipment that could be sublet, or if there's, just some way to provide some type of assistance to get it going. Because, like I said, the retail sales tax side of things for the city could be substantial. Um, and since we did pass our 1% additional sales tax, that's doubling our retail sales tax. So we've already seen a doubling of that, coming through, it's a
Good.
huge difference. I mean, already we've, brought in an extra $30,000 in revenue. And,
Wow.
when we were only bringing in 30,000 total, that extra 30 is pretty big for a small city. So, just another business, really can make a big impact really, really quickly.
And it'll
So
bring in more.
And we have honeycomb
yeah.
over there, and then the little gift shop next
Blue
door,
Heron.
Mm-hmm.
Blue Heron. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely some sales taking place.
So the Taylor Way, all that is in the city, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now that the tribe owns the brewery, do you get tax from that?
We do, because it's not in trust.
Okay.
So yeah, so they still pay taxes. But we only receive tax off of, I believe the beer sales, not anything on like the wholesale side. And then whatever Bill has for, I think it's hot prepared food to go, is what he charges sales tax
Huh.
on.
But in-store food is not
I
taxed.
I don't believe so. I think if you sit and eat,
Yeah, it has to do with hot food and
yeah,
cold food.
yeah. There's different things that
You
are
pay
taxed, and some.
tax if you stay, but you don't pay
Yeah, I
tax
thought
if
it
you
was the
take
other
it.
way around.
Yeah.
Is it the other? I thought it was to go.
No, because when you go to a restaurant, you pay tax.
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
has to
Yeah,
do
I
with
think it's when you
the
take it to
hot
go.
food.
Right.
Maybe.
That's why, like, if someone uses EBT for like a cold deli sandwich, but they want hot bacon, that has to be rang up separately and charged
Interesting.
tax.
Hmm.
Whoa.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
So,
there's certain items that
Over
aren't
there.
like coffee. Like
right.
coffee's not, but I think like hot chocolate is. Like it's just.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
at some
Regulators
literally,
point,
know best.
yeah, somebody
I mean,
high up really like
there's tax
coffee
on
is something.
ice. Even if you make it in your own
Yeah,
facility and bag it, there's still tax.
yeah. There's
Yeah.
some weird areas there. So, but yeah, so that is that conversation is still moving forward, and I think if they're, if they could arrive at a reasonable rate, that's one of the problems we have here, though. There's this over expectation on pricing, and when you look at commercial versus residential, it's very different. I mean, we're looking at probably like 65 cents a square foot for commercial, for when you're moving into a larger footprint versus maybe you get dollar 25 in Old Town, where you have high traffic, but we don't drive that same price point. So these expectations of, that same,
Maybe
dollar
150
20.
years ago, there was more traffic at that spot, but
Yeah. I mean, you have to be reasonable, and you have to bring the expectations down to commercial, because commercial is not someone's living space. That business has to be able to pay the rent. And these are very small businesses. So there's
Well,
a little bit
hopefully
of
they
that.
will
well, if they
be
had a
able to
tenant
do that.
paying a higher rent in that space, that would add value to the property if they were to sell it. Could be a perspective
Hmm.
of a property owner.
Yeah.
Like the higher the rent in there, the more the property
Or
is
if the
dearly
higher the
worth.
rent, no one rents it, and you have a
There's the
building that says
vacancy. The
vacancy. So.
vacancy
Or the
versus the
business
cap
goes out
rate.
of business. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so do you get someone in who can, make a go of it, and who's making the rent and is okay? Or do you get someone who's on the tipping point constantly, or, goes out of business because it's too high, or, or just it sits
Is
vacant
there
all
any
the time?
possibility that they would entertain doing where you ratchet up after
That was
Percentage or
one of the
few
something.
things that
discount?
we had asked, is there a way to, start and then
Uh-huh.
move it up as, her business grows and she gets into it and stuff.
Or,
So I think those
there's
are
also,
all considerations.
or find another spot too. There's the Emporium is also an underutilized property here,
Yes, it is
Mm-hmm.
taking up a big
and it's
footprint.
probably got more square footage
Hmm.
of
Way
retail.
more.
But it's got way more need.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the startup costs going into it, or that's what's probably going to be the heavy lift.
Hmm.
I think even at that space though, the startup cost, depending on what she wants to do, will be pretty substantial. I mean, if she wants cold storage or, you know,
Yeah, I
a
think you're
kitchen.
looking at anywhere between probably like 20 to 50,000
Yeah.
startup,
Yeah.
depending on how you do it. There's a lot. I mean, you can get a lot of equipment used
Yep.
and, you can work with your supplier, for different storage. A lot of it will just be racking. That's the nice thing about a grocery store and mercantile is, a lot of it's just type of shelving. And so if you want to even have that mercantile feel, you can do even like the wire racks and things and, just make it feel a little more rustic until you can build capacity. If you do a lot of stuff on consignment and, that's helpful too. So you're not buying a big inventory and then you're also relying, on those, artisans and producers to merchandise and, keep their areas, productive and turning product over too. So it kind of helps you with your cross marketing and promotion and
Because I think the Ink People has done some of their Dream Maker projects. I don't know if this would fit that wicket or not, but
yeah, it's possible because I think kind of like the artisan producer slant to things. She's also looking at the potential of having like a co-op model. If you need to crowdsource funding, like maybe you do a small co-op and it's, if you need to crowdsource 25,000 bucks, like it's not,
still
wouldn't
Arcata
be
can
as
raise
difficult to get,
that much. And
Yeah.
maybe it's 50 people at 500, 25 at 1,000, whatever. It's not to invest in your own community to get something like this going. I don't
so
think
maybe
that's
a
a
get a discount card
exactly. And
for
then yeah,
shareholders. Like,
right. So she's looking, there's a lot of kind of thought. The biggest thing is really tying up the building because without the building there's no business. So and there's not a lot of options right now in Blue Lake, unfortunately. I wish there were because we get calls all the time.
Is there
People
a
looking.
possibility for a commercial kitchen in that?
There is, yeah. So when Jack had it, there was a kitchen in there, and that would be something she'd be looking at. I don't think she would ever you want to go, like a full commercial kitchen, but being able to have like a deli prep area, making sure you have your sinks and everything. It's the plumbing's there.
Was looking
What
for.
about the
Yeah,
electrical in that old building? Is it
yeah.
like
They
to
had
be able to
stated,
handle her cooler for floral and then you
yeah,
start adding these restaurant
right.
equipment?
Yeah, they had stated that they had electrical upgrades done recently.
Hmm.
So I don't know what,
at what
you
point
know.
does she need an ADA bathroom?
If she's not serving the public,
And she doesn't.
then I don't believe she does.
It has to do with sitting down.
Mm-hmm.
If they're going to sit down, if it's all to go, you don't have to.
Okay, well that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's how Esteban's got it around it too in Arcata,
Yeah.
all to go. But but you can have seating, but it's not specifically.
Right. You
In-
can,
You
It's
can
not
sit down,
inside.
but it's
yeah.
not. Yeah, but it's
Yeah, we
Right.
don't serve anything on plates
not
or
for
Yeah.
whatever,
weddings.
you know,
You
it's
gotta
all
eat
to
out of
go.
your to-go container.
Wrap
You
sandwich,
can
yeah.
sit wherever you want with your paper
Mm-hmm.
bag.
yeah.
Yeah.
Here's some chairs.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Happen to be some chairs
Yeah,
right here.
Right.
exactly.
It gets problematic though.
Yeah. I mean, y- yeah. But like I said, I think there's a need. It's definitely an anchor. We had that report done in 2019 about kind of the next steps that the city needed to take to build kind of those foundational economic investments to continue to grow capacity. And a grocery store was one of the initial ones. It was you need more food and drinks and places for people to, get their necessities so that they can stay longer and that will allow them to recreate and participate in your community more and spend more. So those are those foundational investments that we need to make and to help assist.
Very
So
exciting.
So if there was
yeah.
a handicap, one of those porta potties on the corner of the downtown park,
Mhm.
would that suffice? Is that close enough to that store?
I don't think so.
Because
No.
sometimes, when you go to restaurants, you have to go outside and take
Right.
a key and you walk around.
I think it's all part of the same building.
It has to
Still
be in the same
theirs.
building.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a barrier. I don't think she'll have a huge need for, to have restaurant space for sure. I think she'll find that she can fill up that
Well,
space
the
pretty quickly
town
with
square's right there
Mhm.
for a park.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And that was kind of the idea of the town square too, was to provide that space for people. If you could go get a sandwich or a drink, you could go sit on the town square and enjoy it and,
Yeah.
interface with the community and, so yeah, so I think it'll all be fine. So, like I said, keeping my fingers crossed. We get so close.
So, is there anything? Is that the end of this discussion
That's all I
topic?
have as an update.
Are there any questions,
If you guys have
comments?
any questions or ideas or
No, I'm excited to see how it progresses.
yeah.
It'd be nice to see that space utilized.
Yeah, and it's all fairly fluid, it's a big endeavor for someone to take on
It's
and
right there along the trail, and the trail is supposed to be a big economic driver,
yeah,
Blue Lake
absolutely.
and beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem too early to have the conversation of some of the logistics of running that so that she can also go forward kind of
Yeah,
to start to gather a plan.
right.
You know, the restaurant and grocery worlds are different today
Mhm.
than they were before too.
Yeah.
Is she
Yeah, for sure.
working with the SBDC?
Yeah, so she does have an SBDC advisor.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so
You
she's
know, help her
already
with her
talked with
business
them.
plan for finance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the good thing is she's already an established business person as well. So if nothing else, she starts out with her floral business moving in there. And I think, like, Hannah, you really need to get in there just so you're warm. Like, I mean, I drive by her house, at night and she's out there with her hoodie and a hat and a scarf putting together floral arrangements, and she's just such a hard worker. And, she's,
Recreational equipment rental is something that
yep,
could operate out of there. 'Cause there's
absolutely.
no space for it.
And I think the cool thing about that, like if you do go at kind of that mercantile country stores, you can have different aspects of business in there, so it's even
Hmm.
hosting other businesses, where it's like it allows you to kind of cross market a little bit and just make it seem like it's just that much more active. So you go over to this space and it's, this business or that, and it's all just merchandising, but it can really feel like you're moving into, like a little sporting good area that's, you could even have it like signed differently or, have have a name for it that you're walking into, like like the little Mad River Outfitters.
Greg's food place, what they have is sections now.
Yeah.
And they'll have a section that looks a little bit different, and
Mm-hmm.
it's camping section,
Right.
or there's a ethnic food section,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually adds some interest
Yeah.
to
Socks. They
yeah.
had a whole sock display. Now I'm like, these are really cute socks. Like,
Oh,
it's Ray's food place. So, I've noticed that too, that they're really kind of diversifying. And it does, I mean, it kind of draws you in, you get kind of
Yes,
sucked
it's
into
like
that.
what's going on over
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
it's novel. Let's
I think it pushes you around the store more. So you're not, it's like at Costco when they switch everything around, like it makes me so angry because I have a path, and I take the certain
And
route
that's why they moved
and
it
that's why they moved
around.
it because I can't find it. It makes me so mad. But then I go and I do
you
what I'm supposed to
must check
do that
out the
they're forcing
seasonal
me to do.
delights.
So, but we talked about, even steelheading season, having, there's locals around here that tie, gear and sell it. And if she had a seasonal section of just, good steelhead gear, all those fishermen will come in and guess what? They're going to come in and they're going to buy a coffee, a breakfast burrito, a 6 pack of beer, bag of chips. Pretty soon you just made a $50 sale, because they just came in because they just, snagged up their last bead and they need another pack. So, and it's not stuff that you're going to get at, say, Murphy's because they don't stock the specifics for the river. They, have the trout supplies and it's nothing anyone uses. So, if you have gear that's specific to what people need here, it's going to be it'll be a market and it's a seasonal market, but then you transition into, summer and,
There's also
it's
Please there.
exactly. And suntan lotion and sunscreen.
River.
No, I'm just kidding. Well, but easy to have a hardware section because
Yeah.
I don't have that here anymore. It's
Exactly,
really
yeah.
easy to have.
Yeah.
a lending library of tools
Yeah,
if you
Mhm.
there you go.
so you can
Mm.
rent it 10 times
Or
or
even
so
a
at once.
resource of a phone number.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good options for
Yeah.
a diverse business there.
Hmm. Yeah, and like I said, I think the potential for consignment makes it a little bit easier entry point as well. So,
Sure. Okay.
yeah.
So, moving on to item 7, Powers Creek.
So not the
Did
we
vacancies. What
can-
about 6, the
Yeah, I don't-
vacancies? Is that
6, the vacancies.
is that kind of included,
they-
or are there more?
Well,
I have Del Arte under that
Del
for
Arte,
some reason.
Emporium.
Joe's
Yeah.
Place.
Where's
Yeah,
It's not.
empty yet.
No, but I added this to back to this conversation because this has been on our list for a while and it kind of dropped off. But I think we need to continue to have this conversation about the downtown and some of our underutilized properties. And just, the council brought this up not too long ago about a possibility of a vacancy tax. And I don't think it's out of the realm of reasonableness when you talk about long-term vacant properties in your downtown commercial district.
Would that need to go on the ballot?
I I'm not really sure how it could be structured. There's different ways that you can do it. We've looked at different cities and how they've structured it. There was a bit of a pushback from council. I think, because it's always a hard position to take, But I think at this point, when we're looking at, trying to move forward development and initiatives, um, and you have a large segment of your downtown in the state that ours is in, it starts to become pretty worrisome.
It's
It's
an
a
attractive
barrier. It
nuisance
is.
having empty buildings, so it's a health hazard.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it would be one thing if it was an unpopular place in the city, like the empty place up on Blue Lake Boulevard. It's a big eyesore, but it's not in downtown Blue Lake. And that place probably hasn't had multiple people wanting to rent, lease, buy, or own
Hmm.
as Stardos and the Emporium have. The Emporium has come so close a couple of times, and the owner at the last minute backs out. And I've been I've been at the little bookstore in front of Stardos where total strangers go. Do you know who owns this? Man, I'd love to rent it or buy it. And I'm like, well, a lot of people would like to also. So it's a case of where those places could be filled
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
But there's no incentive, and if you
Right.
have an ordinance,
Still covering the operating costs and the ownership costs, the real estate taxes, the insurance. Maybe there's loans on these properties and maybe there's not, but there is some cost of ownership that's not getting covered by a tenant. And I think they're
Yeah,
already operating at a loss if
Mhm.
they're not occupied. So
Well, in Stardos, for example, I mean, I've talked to Junda several times about it. Last I spoke to him, he was gonna they were coming up with a business plan for a new business. So
Hmm.
I mean, it's interesting to see, but
And that was
uh,
a few years ago.
It's
yeah, that
all
was
been
like
a few
7 months
years
ago.
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
someone looked recently, but I don't know if
Yeah.
they're still looking at it. But
Yeah. We had
they're
someone come through that seemed like they had gotten pretty far in the process, but I haven't heard anything since
Taking
I
purchasing.
think
purchasing.
Yeah.
it sounded like it was like a dream opportunity and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much we can force it, but if there's a way to tax or lien or some kind of nudge.
Yeah.
But I mean, if the sellers are unwilling to part with the property at a reasonable price where somebody can make a go for business there,
well, I think one of the things that you want to see, which is you want to see if they're making an effort to do something,
Hmm.
that they're out there marketing it. To have it just sit there is where you run into problems, and that's when you get crime too.
Yeah.
Um, and in some of the cities that have vacant building ordinances, it's tied to activity with police calls.
Hmm.
And so that's one way you can kind of say, you're costing us a lot of money. If you're taking valuable services away from other people who need them.
Hmm.
But I don't think you have that in Blue Lake.
No.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't really force a property owner to do anything, right? I mean, you
Well,
can't really force them to sell their property for a reasonable rate. Maybe they want a long time generational hold on the property. I think it's when it gets into these dilapidated conditions is when it really turns into a problem and when that's an effective means of
yeah. And I think,
addressing it.
there's a looking at a commercial building in a downtown versus, like this is my home, like I can do what I want with it as long as I'm not hurting anyone, but you're affecting commerce and there's so many different layers, you're bringing down the value of surrounding properties. You're introducing, blight into a downtown that, you're affecting other people's ability to have a successful business, when it's like people are pulling up and it's like, oh, like where, this looks a little dodgy, I mean,
And it
there's,
doesn't look very nice on the outside.
I would support a vacancy tax.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
too.
yeah,
I mean, that's the
I would
purpose of
too.
it is to
yeah.
encourage that
What you're
growth.
gonna have to do is homework because Mr. Sawatsky will threaten to sue the city.
Hmm.
So all that has to be
Could it
looked
be a
into.
vacancy tax that maybe is like forgivable if all the
That was one
long-term
of the things that
tenants
was talked
step in,
about
or
when we brought it to the council to talk about was, you could collect it, and then what other cities have done is they've collected it and then given it back in the form of a grant to the property owner to make improvements.
That seems
So
fair.
it's kind of like we're forcing you to move forward,
That's interesting.
so we're
it's
not
reinvested
necessarily
in the
penalizing you because you're just reinvesting your own resources into your facility. Um,
And wasn't the Stardos already given some help from the men's group? They painted it and put a window in and
Mhm.
and seemingly doing it thinking that it was going to open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some community investment in that.
And you also offered a business loan
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The city's done a substantial amount of work to try and provide support. I mean, we don't have a lot to give, but we have tried to do what we could, to um, provide some assistance, whether that was advocacy, whether it was a small loan, whether, it's just, attracting investment, because it's really difficult, in the downtown to try and make it go and promote economics when you have, the almost the majority of your properties are in the state.
Yep.
So, we have the glass blowing shop, we've got the Emporium, we've got the Stardos building,
What's happening
we've
at the
got
bottom of Jones?
the bottom of Joan Shirley's building,
Which one is that?
that's the one across from Delarte.
What's going on over where the radish was?
I believe that's sold.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, did Andy sell that then?
I
The
don't,
woman who owns,
just my type.
yes,
Yeah,
purchased it.
yeah, Andy and Lynn Jones purchased that a while back.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
And they have long-term tenants in the bottom floor with Wildlife Institute.
and the Wildlife Institute. They're going to be building a facility
Right, because they bought your family's
yeah,
property, right?
between by Essex and Glendale.
Yeah.
But I think their COVID and a lot of that stuff
Mhm.
slowed them down on all that.
Construction
But,
costs
Right.
have
yeah.
Oh, and
increased.
they're
Oh,
just
yeah.
But I
incredible.
talked with him the other day, and he said that they were still planning on moving
Oh,
forward.
interesting. Yeah, and that's another great property, and I know Andy and Lynn are really interested. I mean, they're, good community members and very dedicated to the
Absolutely.
community. So, in fact, Lynn wants to is talking about moving, part of her business back to Blue Lake, but we just don't have any space.
She said,
It's another thing. I'm like, oh my
Oh,
gosh,
jeez.
like if we knew
I've
this.
been frustrated with the construction in Old Town the past few months.
Oh yeah,
Oh, with all the road work.
It's been wild. There's a lot of jackhammering. There's a lot of noise. It's hard to figure out where to go.
yeah, we've
Party.
lived through that for a while here in Blue Lake.
It gets worse, but I guess it's more of the same.
Yeah, but it's gonna be so nice when it's done.
"Mm,
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it's like I said, we did bring this idea back to the council for consideration, and it was kind of, you know, um it's an uncomfortable situation. It's also uncomfortable because at the meeting, those property owners were in attendance. And so, there was a lot of, like, I mean, it's hard. It's, there's life circumstances, there's economic circumstances and things that all have to be considered. And no one's trying to be dismissive of, people's situation. But at some point, this situation has a much broader and larger effect on the city. And so,
It's also been ongoing for quite some time.
a long
It's
time.
not
And I
like
don't
this is
see
a
it
new
stop.
thing.
I don't see it
I don't
ending.
I
see
don't
it.
either.
Yeah, I don't
Mm,
either.
I
The
haven't
same
seen
players
any
doing the same
investment.
things. I really think that adding the money back in a grant to
Hmm.
improve the property yeah, it sucks and it's uncomfortable, but hey, here you go, use it to go forth
Yeah.
and hopefully improve your property. I think that's kind of a great way to go about it.
Tenant
Mhm.
improvements for
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
who's gonna sign a 5, 10 year lease.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, there's no shortage of people that are interested in any of those properties. I
Hmm.
mean, we get people calling and coming in all the time. So
And
it's
is it being used the right way? Meaning, are they living there?
no, it had been they had been residing and that's no longer taking
Oh,
place.
good.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
because
were
that was
living
an
in the old
unallowed.
kitchen.
Yeah, so they had kind of transitioned it over to a living space. So
So it's attached to their living space.
was
Right.
it's attached, but there wasn't like an egress
Yeah.
to it.
You got to go in the front
Yeah.
door still.
But it's
So it's
no
just vacant.
longer. It's just vacant.
Such a waste.
And it's kind of fallen apart. I mean, when I
It is.
walked in there, that was what, a year and a half ago, maybe
Hmm.
2 years ago. I mean, the roof was kind of coming in, and there's a bunch of water damage, and
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not like you walk in there and it's like, oh, someone can come in here today. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a
no,
lot of
there's a
work that
lot of
needs to be
work
done. And I
asked to be
assume
done.
it's
Health and safety kind of work.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
and
definitely.
not to mention they've lost some of their. I mean, just Stardo specifically has lost some of the kitchen equipment and
Mhm.
ability to do that sort of thing there, so they all need to be redone and recertified. So I mean, there's and I assume it's similar with the Emporium and Joe's place. Obviously needs a
Hmm.
lot of work, so it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
all
There's a
these.
probably 12-foot piece of wood just fell off the Emporium and
Right,
on the
Yeah, right
ground.
onto the trail.
yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
yeah, I don't disagree with that at all.
And I'm wondering if maybe the next step for the EDC could be to make some outreach to these property owners. Um, you know.
I'm
The
willing
the
to,
business outreach that
yeah,
we were looking
Hmm.
at doing is up.
Yeah.
and bringing the property owners and talking to them about
Hmm.
what some of their limitations are.
Hmm.
The only problem I see with that, and again, I'll speak to Stardo specifically, is you have a lot of different people with different ideas
Yeah.
about the same property. And so, not that it would be a waste of time for us to do that, but I think that we should think collectively of how we want to approach that. Just because, again, you talk to one person, they have one idea, you talk to another person, they have 10 different
And
ideas.
Yeah.
you
So,
have some that are not going to be interested in talking with
yeah,
us.
that's true too.
And I think, and then I feel like that at least you check that box that happened. You know.
Well, whatever you think would help the city, and if there's something that we can do to help you check that box, and we might find that some people don't realize what types of um, incentives there are out there,
Hmm.
or how to get financing. I mean, you guys are really into the financing, so it might
Well,
be
Right.
kind
we find ways to market the space to tenants if it's not going to be for sale,
Right.
just to see.
Well, but then you have to still work with the property owners
That's
But
Hmm.
and
but
they have to agree and
even in the current condition they're at, they're still marketable. You still have 10
yeah.
people posting on Facebook every day. Going,
Right.
going here. So I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting though.
and how it was before when Stardust was operating, it was great.
Hmm.
You were able to go to the logger, you could have a pizza delivered over there, and it benefited both
Mhm.
businesses.
Yeah.
I was really excited about somebody thinking of taking that, starting that back up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
That was great.
maybe it'll still happen, but it's not happening soon.
Yeah. I mean, they even had the health inspector go through.
Yeah,
I was like, oh,
they did.
they're pretty far. Like
Yeah,
they
there
got
was
pretty
some
far in the process.
anyway, the health inspector seemed to think it was mostly cosmetic. I mean, just
Oh, just recent?
it wasn't
Hmm.
really a big
Oh.
deal.
And why did that fall through?
Hmm.
I'm guessing it was still gonna maybe cost more in time and resources. And there's also a lot of other restaurant businesses for sale that are more turnkey.
Yeah, it's
whereas
true.
This is like no
Mhm.
longer a turnkey kind of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That ship sailed years
Hmm.
ago.
And depending on the purchase price as well. And then you add those other things into it.
Well, and I think that's where, there's this thought as well that these prices are escalating and they're not. The condition of these buildings is, it's the value's not going up.
Mhm.
When you're looking at the needs and the improvements and the renovations and, you get to a certain point and the cost to renovate far exceeds what anyone is able to turn out of a business going in there. And I think, there's at least one of those buildings, if not two, that are at that point where the cost to just get it to a point where it's habitable and occupiable is well beyond anyone's capacity to run a successful business out of it. And so at that point, I don't know what the options are either. So,
Yeah.
And even if it's merely cosmetic, when you go into it, you look at it. I mean, you start peeling back the
you,
curtains, and it's
You don't know.
turns into structural and
yeah.
all kinds of things.
Lots of
So
surprises when
Oh,
you
yeah.
do a rehab
yeah,
Oh,
or
yeah.
remodel
Mm.
well, especially on
process.
these buildings. I mean,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
old. They're from the
Yeah.
early 1900s. Some of them. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it sounds like if nothing else, you have us behind the council as far as to talk about the tax
Yeah.
and impose that. And the parameters of it could be you're going to get this notice, and then you have 12 months to do something so
Hmm.
that it gives someone time to deal
Right.
with it. And then still in addition to that, you could do
Yeah, and maybe
the
that's our first
refund
step.
part.
Maybe our first step is to provide a notice,
Mhm.
that the
I think that's
EDC
where we
has,
were last time we brought up the tax.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we just take that as our first step. So at least we're building a paper trail. Um, we could take that back to council for that next
If
step to
that's the
take
soda
place.
tax that gets, it's not the, would it like real estate taxes if I'm paid after 5 years, it's just something that's going to be a silent lien on
I
the
have no
property
idea.
until it's
There's
well?
well, it could
cities
be an
are
abatement, right?
they structure them different ways.
Uh-huh.
And we looked at a couple of different there's a lot of cities that are in this position because there's a lot of places, especially after COVID, that lost commercial space. A lot of office buildings are empty. People work from home and realize that, hey, why do we need an office? Like, we can just make our employees work at home,
And
and
it creates cascading
it
vacancies on
does.
services and
Absolutely.
retail and
Yeah.
food and hospitality that was
Yeah.
around these office spaces.
Right. So it's definitely on the radar of a lot of cities to look for reasonable solutions. So there's different ways that people are putting it together.
Yeah, those may be vacant because of COVID, but these places have been vacant way before COVID came
Mhm.
around. So that's
And they're
not going to
deteriorating.
fly. That's not going to fly as an excuse.
Yeah, not at all. I really think the big thing too is that they're deteriorating. I
Mhm.
mean, vacant is one thing, but a deteriorating vacant building is a whole nother, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just being empty makes it deteriorate.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if you're not doing anything to it and you're
And nobody's
noticing
saying
work
you
being.
need to fix this,
Yeah,
you need to fix that.
yeah,
Mhm.
It's time to paint again.
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, if things are falling off the building onto the trail, that's not safe, and
Mhm.
that's not even a vacancy tax issue. That is a hazard into
Mhm.
the public, and
Yeah.
there has to be another layer of something that the city has in place now or not, or
We do. We have,
to
building codes
enforce
and
that.
a building official, and, but there's kind of a high bar to, substantiate um, health and safety violations.
Although a
Some,
piece falling off the roof might kind of fall into that category.
yeah.
Especially when
So to
people
speak.
park their car there and hop out on the sidewalk to get to the little bookstore or the lager
Mhm.
bar.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think
So
Ken just fixed that himself too, if I remember right. I think he just hopped up on a ladder.
it's still gone. It's
Yeah.
still an open piece of fascia. It's gonna have rain now going in it, and
Mm.
so yeah,
It doesn't
it's
show very much pride for your city,
nope.
unfortunately.
No.
Or the building. I mean, that's a historic building too, you
It's
know.
Just a
it's a
shame.
beautiful
It's a
Yeah.
building.
giant
Yeah,
shame.
absolutely.
But
That's the art
you've
bazaar.
seen what all his other rentals look like, except for the house that he lives in. And I rented from him years ago.
I bet that
Very
was,
sad.
Huh?
I
Very
bet
sad.
that was interesting.
Yeah, he was a great landlord.
he? Good.
Yeah, he was never around. Yeah, and
Darcy.
as we
This
speak,
is
there's a tarp that's been on the roof for about the last 5 years of the house that I lived in. So just saying.
Yeah. And again, I don't think you can force property owners to do anything. I mean, it's up to them how they want to do it. But I think that having a underutilized retail tax on your on your on the property would encourage them to do more things. So
Well, one thing, especially with an old town like this, is that the fire issues that could happen. If you had one of them that's not being maintained or occupied, very easily it could start on fire and then you lose the whole town.
Are they
Hmm.
paying more for fire insurance on these vacant buildings, or
I have no
do
idea.
they? If
I don't
it's
know.
not, if there's no loan on it, you're not maybe not required to have insurance.
Yep.
Yep. But look what, at the community meeting about the development, someone brought up, the fire, excuse me, the fire hazard of how are they going to get a fire truck in there and all that. And Ed Laylaw, the fire marshal, said basically to one of the city, I think one of the city employees, that he was way more worried about most of the old buildings in
Mhm.
Blue Lake that didn't have sprinkler systems and were
Yeah.
not current with that and were dilapidated, of burning up and being incinerated so quickly, more than a new building that has sprinklers and everything all according to permit.
Right.
And he's not wrong. I mean, you saw
No,
how
absolutely.
quickly that house up there on the corner went,
Oh,
and
mhm.
I mean, how fast it can happen in an old building like
Yeah.
that. And so it's very scary.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a big
It
concern.
definitely is a concern,
Yeah. And I think you can force property owners to deal with their property. There was a very bad landlord in Eureka, and yes,
Mhm.
Sure, the
Eureka's
Squires.
bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, Squares. And I mean, they were able to, slowly over time. I'm sure a lot of it had to do with like what you said, where it's the police problems and the transient
Hmm.
activity and things, but still, there has to be other layers to their policy that show how to deal with that.
Those were residential properties
Some of
primarily.
them, there was motels
There were
and
some.
Yeah.
different, yeah,
Heroin Hilton.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so there's got to be a litany of cities across the nation to show how they all deal with it differently, for sure. But you should be able to, especially in a
Fire
downtown.
aspect is something that really is, it can change a whole community. And that was one of the big fears in Old Town. If you had one fire, it could take the whole place down
Hmm.
because
Well,
of
and maybe
everywhere.
that's part of it, is that being a commercial business owner in Blue Lake, maybe something to do with your um, permit or your business license, that you have to show proof that you have fire insurance on that building.
Some of them can't get it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the
True.
big problems too.
Or it's just if you can get it, it's not affordable.
Yes and no. Yeah.
Yeah, they have to shop around.
Yeah.
So they ask and there's some,
Yeah.
find
I
somebody.
mean, yeah, but I mean, I think there's some layers in there that other little avenues could push a hand a little
Yeah.
bit to even to be able to know whether, like, a big building like the Emporium, if it caught on fire, what that would entail and look like. And, hopefully, God forbid, that doesn't happen. But it's still, do we even know if it's insured to deal with it? And do we care if it's insured? Maybe not.
I just care if it
But if
travels.
but if somebody were to get hurt,
Mhm.
is there liability
Well, there are
insurance?
residents who
And
live there,
Yeah.
so
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a valid concern.
it
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah.
so the health, we're back to that health and safety discussion.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could talk about this for hours and hours.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I do like the idea of offering a tax with the idea that we want to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
First off, what do you need?
How can we
You
help
know,
you get a tenant in there or
what-
find?
Yeah. And then
And,
because
and a reasonable time frame of implementation on that,
Hmm.
even though it's been a long time coming, fair warning, an opportunity to make change.
Say, we
Yeah.
noticed if your property's still vacant in X months,
Yeah.
we're gonna.
But we back you up.
and we can help you.
Yeah. And it's not like, it could be like, oh, somebody moved out yesterday and you're going to get a notice. No,
Right.
there
Right.
would be time. And
Yeah.
so those parameters could be generous.
Mm-hmm.
9
Yeah.
months a year. I mean, it needs to be a conversation, and there's going to have to be a lot of homework on everybody's part to see what those
Sure.
buildings individually need to be rentable,
Hmm.
and if they do have to have fire insurance, or so there's a lot of homework involved in it for sure, but it might be time to get the ball rolling.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. I feel like, trying to look at the downtown and commerce. I mean, like I said, we're pretty limited without, you know, taking some proactive approach. You know, they're just too substantial of a footprint in such a small space that, it's really difficult. So,
And these are new problems.
no.
So moving on to the
Item 7.
Powers Creek, huh?
Well, did you want to
What
talk at all
about
about
Del Arte?
Oh.
Del Arte?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if someone has an update. Maybe Elizabeth, I don't know if you have had any, or did you attend the town hall? I wasn't able to go.
I did.
Maybe I'm not sure how. It sounds like they're still continuing to fundraise and
Mm-hmm.
looking at options for the future and just kind of what that entails. But that's another big, hole in the downtown if we can't get those spaces activated or find
Mhm.
something to help substantiate them, transitioning to another model or looking at
Well,
investment.
they need to sell that building
Mhm.
is the biggest thing
Which
because
building?
the Mad River Brew
Okay.
area because they are a nonprofit, and if more than a certain percent of their income is coming from commercial, they would lose their nonprofit
Mm.
status.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know
So they
that.
really need to get that done. They
Hmm.
need to sell that, and plus, then they could use the proceeds to help them get out of the hole that they're in right now. But basically, they were really open with what they're all doing. There's a leadership committee of 3 people who and the community that came was very supportive that everybody wants Del Arte to be here. Del Arte is a huge part of this community, so there was a lot of support for them, and yeah, so that's really one of their main goals is to sell that. So
Are those just big rooms, that building? Big storage spaces?
what
or-
building?
The one that they need to sell down at the brewery.
There's a bunch of different places. There's the brewery, and then there's attached to the brewery. There's a few different. They used them as
School rooms?
school. Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's a few different rooms, and then there's that one gigantic one.
in the back.
Yeah.
They're all
by the
rented
creek.
out. They're all rented
at
out.
this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even the big
But they're
one
making.
by the
Yeah,
creek.
the big
can't
one
make
is rented
money.
out by a
Yeah.
marine biology program from, I think it's UCSF or one of the universities. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are they being sold in separate pieces or
No,
as
No,
a
it's
one
a
It's
whole?
the
unit.
sale
property.
for like 1.5 is what it's for sale for.
And the Europe tribe's not interested.
Mhm.
Somebody was,
Was
and
it
it didn't work out.
I know the
webinar?
Comers, they were in escrow. Dan and Lacey were in escrow, but it was a contingency sale. So they were selling a commercial property in Eureka and it was contingent upon that closing. And then at the last minute, that deal didn't close. So that offer, because Dan was like, he could have eventually just moved that whole recreation store into that unit, which, would have been great. So we were really excited about that. And then it just kind of all fell through at that point. And interest rates are really really high
Yeah,
right now.
8.45.
Terrible.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But cap rates remain low, so somebody buying it as a passive investment is going to have a hard time putting 25% down and
Mhm.
getting a loan that has a 1.25 debt coverage where the rents are high enough to pay there's a
Mhm.
space there between the asking price of the property and what the rental income supports.
mhm.
Right.
So
Mhm.
it, it's a tight spot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think Del Arte has a great future. I think, there's opportunities to diversify and partner and just kind of transition into a different space that's different, but, still complementary to kind of their foundational model. And that's always, that paradigm shift can be really difficult and hard. But as you have younger people coming in with different ideas and, just seeing, it's as hard as it is, it might, the opportunities that can come from it are fairly substantial. activating that space in different ways. We've had people who are interested in renting the theater for movies. We've had a lot of interest in from people who are interested in renting their outdoor space for different uses and concerts and
Art Festival is
activities. And
wonderful for that.
yeah, and I mean, it works great for our markets, and the city definitely has a role to play in helping to promote that and activate space and be flexible in usage, and making sure that we're doing what we can. One of the things that we'll be looking at is also changing the parking on H Street as well to just get more parking there, just helping in different ways to clean up the space. We've looked at different ways to make it more of a pedestrian friendly location and possibly even making from Railroad to the intersection all the way down to the point past the logger up to First, making that a one way and being able to expand sidewalks. And so then you can do more because right now, with that being so narrow and the 2 lane traffic, it's very dangerous. But being able to open that up, maybe we expand sidewalks, we could do some ADA accessibility. You could do even like we did with in partnership with you, Kelly, in front of Keiko's, to be able to have that little bump out so you have some outdoor seating and so there's things on the city side that we can do to activate space, but ultimately, it's just lending them support for whatever their future model is. So I wish we had money to give them, but we don't.
They lost a lot of money. Yeah, from grants and yeah, they
That's-
didn't. They're not getting the
That
grants.
was really sad. To
Yeah.
lose that grant.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Why did they lose the grant?
I think the James Irvine Foundation went in a different direction with what they were funding and sustaining. It was just something they'd had for a long term and been renewed many times. And
wasn't
it was a
renewed.
big chunk of their funding, and it just.
Oh, that's too bad.
And then with the pandemic, enrollment declined.
Right. And I think they don't have their accreditation anymore for the students.
The MFA program was
Mhm.
closed. There was a really good write up, I think, about just kind of summarizing all the different. I mean, it's not one. There's
Right.
a
It's
lot that
series of
has
things.
happened with this organization over the
Yeah.
past few years, and it was just
Kind of a perfect storm.
Yeah.
it was a big, terrible storm. It was like 3 storms in a row kind of thing, not just one.
Yeah.
But they've always had to adapt, and they've adapted before, and this is another challenge to reinvent themselves and adapt to
Mhm.
what they are next.
But if they lost their accreditation, that's a biggie. Can they get
That
that
was the
back?
MFA program. They also had, I think, a certificate program or a shorter program, and they do summer intensives and other like so there's different things they had going on, but the MFA 3 year MFA program was a big part.
So they're still accredited for the other program.
I'm not sure. I think they're still students.
Nope.
No.
No. They want to do short term. They're doing workshops now
So it's
with
workshops and
community, more
short-term.
community workshops right now. I'm not sure what kind of accreditations they
And
have.
theater's hard, I mean, it's a changing demographic too.
Yeah,
It's
the
a changing
pandemic
audience,
really hurt theaters.
Yeah.
and younger
I-
people aren't as enthusiastic about the in place theater. It's an evolving thing. You see your market starting to age and the next generation coming in, they're not as used to or as interested. I mean, they're like TikTok reel, they have an attention span of like 15 seconds, and it's like to sit through a whole theater performance, is like, so you got to be able to adapt to that, and they have that opportunity. I mean, there's different ways that they could, it's like spin
2 minute
it.
plays, 2 minute skits.
Yeah, right. Spin it up. So
I
I
think
don't know.
involving the school. I think, if Delarte worked with Blue Lake
Mhm.
School and just really became more of the community minded and get the kids involved in theater.
Yeah.
There's gotta
Because
be
the
funding
kids
for that.
love it. When I was teaching, I always did a musical every year and it was so much fun. The kids love it.
Yeah,
Well,
Del
and
Arte
them.
came out to Philbrook and did a show every year
Mhm.
years ago. Yeah.
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 And then they would work with Blue Lake School to have the students come in and do be part of a play
Yeah.
or do
With
plays.
the,
Yeah,
in a
they
real
started
theater.
doing that
In a
again.
real theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my niece was there, so
Hmm.
I went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they loved it, and it was good for their confidence skills
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah. There's lots
learning
of
how
things
to
you can do.
speak. And
Props, you
yes,
know,
yeah.
yeah, behind the scenes for some of the kids, they don't want to be in the spotlight. And then, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ideas. One of the things that I had recommended they look into is just being able to have some type of vocational skill set that comes out of that program as well. So, in conjunction with whatever you're getting in physical theater, maybe you're also getting your electrician's certificate or something, or it's some type of certificate in bookkeeping or social media or web design or something that
Sort of an apprentice program,
gives you,
something
because
like that.
it's very hard to like come out of physical theater world and figure out how you're going to make a go of that. But if you could back that with like I can do bookkeeping on the side, or because you're going to need all that in a theater anyways. If you're building props, you're building sets, you're doing electrical, you're doing lighting, you're doing construction. So why not build a little something else into it that gives some sustainability and affordability? Because
That's interesting.
I mean, there's, and you have CR and, Cal Poly, and maybe there's, getting in with those trade schools as well. Could be something that could be interesting, or with the tribes or something. So,
When you just brought that up, at one point, Center Arts was looking to do something at the Arkley Theater before it it went the way that it did. I mean, could that be a venue for Center Arts to do some performances there and generate some income to the?
I don't see why not. I mean, Redwood Curtain lost their space. I was like, maybe partner with them. If
Well,
nothing else, you're
they
leasing.
partnered with NCRT.
Yeah,
Yeah, they did,
just
but
heard that.
that just now happened.
Yeah.
I mean, there would, maybe these groups, get together to cross-utilize
You would,
space or
you would
something.
think
But
that they probably, who's ever in charge of Del Arte has had that thought and reached out, right?
So the
I don't
nonprofit
know.
model may no longer work for them. Is
Or
that
y-
a possibility?
I mean, you
Well,
could
that's
be a
what have to sell
nonprofit
that.
but
They
still
have to sell
drive a
that building.
certain
Well,
amount
say
of
that
revenue.
their revenue has to come from another source. So if they're
Mm-hmm.
not getting tuition revenues and box office revenues, is
Mhm.
that's not a nonprofit kind of?
I don't know. I
Is
think
that?
you can
think
you can
that's
structure your nonprofit in certain ways. You might have a branch of it that's, a
You could have a
for-profit structure.
for-profit.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Um,
true.
but yeah, I think they have really good marketable, usable space. It's just, and at some point, you have to look at, is it worthwhile to, make a couple $100 a month off of it? Or, is it just more cost and maintenance and, stuff to do that? Or, like where's the tipping point where, the impact, is, and the revenue outweighs what those impacts are. So I'm sure they're looking at all of that, because I know for sure there's, interest in those spaces, but I don't know if it generates enough revenue to make it worthwhile to even, spend the time considering it. Hmm. But for the city, we don't also, we just don't want another empty space. So,
Big one.
Hopefully, there's some good stuff on the horizon.
yes.
Hope so.
For you to take public comment? Oh, yes. Would you have
Well, we
any?
hadn't been doing it because there
Please.
hadn't been any public.
Ew.
Bam, sorry about that. What about a fundraiser? How about the city sponsor a fundraiser to help Del Arte with their goal of that 125,000 by the first of the year? At your last meeting, you were talking a lot about the upgrades to Prash Hall for a music venue, and I don't know what all is possible there. Um, I understand maybe it was last spring when the PTA did a dance for high school kids. That was pretty successful. You know, we could do a dance for big people, or not. But
That dance for the littles was super popular.
mhm.
Battle of the Bands, something. That sounds like it would tie in with the future agenda items for business outreach and Del Arte and a fundraiser.
Mhm.
Is that something we could put on the December agenda?
Hmm.
to see. We
They need their money by the end of December.
Right.
So we're, it was short notice,
well putting something
honestly.
together.
But there's always needs for more money. Hopefully they're halfway there, more than halfway, right? Is what we heard.
Well, my I
It could be for a future.
flashing back to our budget, I believe there's several $1,000s for small business grants, in the city budget. Is that not true, Mandy?
So we had some COVID funds, and the city in the past had given out some grants. We gave Del Arte a grant already for the food truck corner. Um,
This
and
year, you mean?
it was last year that we gave that. And so we have some limited funds. We're just looking at the use of those funds right now to see what's left over. We have a shortfall on the roof for Prash that we need to make up. Um, and whatever's left over could be given out as small business grants as well.
Okay.
But I mean, they're
Something
like
that,
thousand, like it was like a $4,000 grant or a couple
right,
thousand, it
right.
wasn't anything that's going to make a huge dent into,
But
Are
it's
you
it's a
thinking
shortfall.
about using a little bit of city money to put on something to raise more money? Is that what you were thinking?
Or a direct
I'm
deposit.
thinking about any and all possible ways that the city can show support to Del Arte financially. So whether the city sponsors by helping to put on an event and donating the use of the hall, um, and possibly also uses some of that grant money as maybe a thousand, 2,000, whatever. Some of those small business grants, um, you know, potentially those could go into that, or those could, like you say, be used to buy supplies for
Or to
whatever
pay
event.
musicians or bands?
Sure, sure. I mean, and I don't know. Or I don't know that needs to be a decision that this committee makes, but if it seems like that's a good idea, we could just start a volunteer, program to see if we can pull that together before the end of the
yeah,
year.
this sounds like a Parks and Rec thing would be involved because it would be
Or
the
the
Not
city
necessarily. I
chamber.
mean,
Or
to
Grange?
to a
City
small
Or
degree.
chamber.
I mean, it could be a full community thing.
Mhm.
Full city sponsor. Just, hey, let's throw a party
See what we can.
and bring people together and show support.
I'm sure people would turn out for something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's a potluck dinner or a dance, food, no food, booze, whatever. I mean, there's plenty of nonprofit organizations that could front the beer booth. I mean, whenever there's a
we
beer
can
booth,
try.
there's money to be made. You know, um, so I mean, it just seems like a little brainstorming, a little decision.
I think
Boom,
that's
we
a
got it.
cool idea actually because it kind of yeah it gets everybody together in support of
Yeah, and I think coming from the city makes a statement that is would be really positive and help to pull that support together. I think it's important for the city to outwardly show that support as well because we have the ability to do it, and um, we should do what we can. Like we've all been saying, Del Arte's been a big part of our community for a very long time, so we should do whatever we
50
can
year
to
anniversary
help them
coming
out.
up.
Oh, wow.
anniversary fundraiser.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what would be the step? Like if we were in agreement, yeah, it'd be great to do some kind of fundraiser. What would be the next step? Would we maybe get chamber and park and rec involved, or
I am over my head on this. I would welcome
Oh.
any viable suggestions. It's definitely outside my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I think the chamber would be a good starting point. And I know that they had some conversations about this situation as well.
I mean, it would have to be done pretty quick because they need it by the end. They need their money by the end of
I don't think
December.
it's gonna happen before that.
I mean, we're in the holidays, so
It's a
I mean,
really
we've
hard
already
time of
got
year to throw something like that
yeah,
to make it viable.
That's a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
idea.
Yeah, right. Get it
That's
the
a
day
great
before.
idea.
What's their
Black and
end
white
of
wall.
December deadline for? Is it like is a loan being
It,
called
I'm
no,
not sure.
it is not. It is not a hard deadline. That is one
Oh,
thing that came
okay.
up.
Okay.
That is just
Okay.
Oh,
a
that takes the
goal
pressure
deadline.
off a
That
little bit.
definitely changes a
Yes.
fundraiser
So it could be a
then.
January thing.
So these are just operating costs that they need funded from external sources. Like this is just money for their staff, for
Right.
minimal
Yes.
staffing,
Yes, I think
and
so.
whatever, keeping the lights on, literally
Yes.
paying utility
Yes.
bills,
Paying the
interest,
bills.
loan
The
payments,
bills
and
are
whatever.
crazy.
Do they
Yeah.
own their buildings?
I don't know if they
They
completely
have
own
a
that
loan.
one. They have a loan on the one down there, though. I know that much, but
The brewery.
yeah,
Mhm.
I think they own the Oddfellows Hall.
Mhm.
outright.
I think so.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, okay.
Another piece, they got a bridge loan when they were expecting, I think, a grant or something to come through, or maybe they got the bridge loan because they thought that the property, the taproom property was to sell.
It was an
Which I think-
escrow at one point.
Right, and so I think it was an escrow when they got the loan. The sale fell through, so now they have that loan. that
Oh,
they need.
wow.
So, yeah, I recall them saying that they gave themselves that deadline essentially because
I don't think it matures anytime soon. Not in the next 12 months.
Just that there's payments
well,
involved and
they just can't continue to do everything they need to do to try to build a business. If
Right,
don't have
well,
that money
they
in
have
that
to
time-
be, but
in
yeah,
in that time frame.
whatever they need to do is going to take capital.
Well, and I think the biggest part of it is they just need a plan. You know, I mean, I think that's where they're at right now is, as they're restructuring and trying to figure things out, what does that look like? I mean, this buys them some time to keep those discussions going forward, but at some point, are you going to try and get that accreditation back? Are you going to try and bring, students? Like, what does
That
it
would take
look
staffing.
like?
Yeah, that would take
It's gonna,
staffing and
yeah,
And the cost of that was uh, astronomical.
yeah.
Yeah, all of the paperwork that went behind making sure that that was all done legally and
yeah,
correctly.
well, that was probably some long-term staff, I would guess,
Mhm.
or directors, or there was probably a support
Yeah,
system,
it's
a
a
brain
whole
trust in
system
place to keep that
for-
working.
because
and
they had funds for the students.
those grants had to be
Yeah,
administered probably to the penny.
yeah.
Who owns the old Star Hotel?
Oh gosh, what's her name?
And
Where's what's
is
the
that
old
on the
Star
market?
Hotel? Where's that?
No, it's not on the market, but Del Arte gave up all the rooms in it.
Okay, yeah, 'cause they had a yard
Oh,
sale.
I know who owns that.
What's her
They
name?
call it the clown. Zandy.
Sandy.
Zandy Zubelmeyer and Tom. They live in Portland.
Because that's
And
a
they don't wanna
cool
sell it.
business. That's a really cool building.
It is a cool building.
Yeah,
It needs work, evidently, according to
is that the one
Nash.
behind the museum?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have that
Yeah.
picture in the lobby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Star Hotel, huh?
Mhm.
Mhm.
She always called it the Clown Hotel.
Well, because
It was
They all
Delarty
say
was
that.
before.
yeah.
The Star was before the Clouds.
So I guess
All right.
bring that up to chamber and kind of get that ball rolling and see.
Yeah, I know we were just working on our programming um before lunch or after lunch today. And we've got a lot of stuff coming up with Parks and Rec. We've got holiday markets, we've got the horse story tour stuff, we've got skate programming. There's just a ton, school programming. So I think, the chamber would be a good partner on that and could partner with Parks and Rec and the city. Um, but I think right now we're pretty maxed out just in the next couple months on just holding everything together that we've got to do.
One of the things we talked about at the last meeting, and as I was doing the minutes, I'd forgotten that Emily was saying that the chamber wants to do something every season
Hmm. Right.
and sort of follow the the Arcata model, Arcata Chamber.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering if this could be something that would be a winter one or
Like a masquerade ball.
something like
Something
that.
fun.
Yeah, I
Dress
know
up.
they're doing the chamber helps with like the tree lighting, the parade, the after event, and they're talking about doing
Or wreath making or something that goes on as
we usually do like a crafting thing around it, but they're talking about doing a community dinner
That's what I
after
was
the
gonna bring up.
yeah. So there's
No, I'm not a community dinner.
oh,
Another dinner.
oh, okay.
I'll,
Um
I'll wait till announcements,
okay.
I guess.
Yeah, so there is a plan that they're working on to do kind of a holiday community dinner using Prash and, kind of, I think the thought was that we would do the tree lighting ceremony and then everyone could come back to Prash and there'd be food and drinks and music and um, kids stuff. And, because there's always that chance it's going to be raining So in order to be able to allow people to spend some more time, we could do kind of after events in Prash Hall, which would be nice. So
Kind of like Elisa's uh, idea of a black and white ball, New Year's Eve or New Year's, but now that we know that it's not a pressure to get it
yeah,
done by December, which is really full of stuff.
yeah, it would give us more
Valentine's.
time.
What's that?
Valentine's.
I was gonna
Oh,
say
there you
something in
go.
the spring, maybe, ample time
Valentine's.
to plan.
I think if we want to show our support, we need to try to do something before the deadline. I mean, there's lots of opportunity as the months go on if they can hang in there. But if we can,
I know, but Prash Hall is probably full every weekend till
New Year's
in,
Eve too,
huh?
New Year's Eve.
There's
I
usually
don't
a
know.
skate event.
Usually a skate
Yeah.
event.
I think New Year's Eve is like, was it on a Sunday or something? We were just looking
Okay,
at
one
that.
thing I really enjoyed a few years ago is when we had the holiday market that we had at the Emporium.
Oh, the Taste of Blue Lake.
Yeah, Taste of
Was
Blue Lake.
that
That
was
was
Yeah.
so
That was
much
always
fun.
great.
excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but I think that we also had some roof problems, some leaking.
Yeah, I remember there was buckets and
Yeah.
Yep, New Year's Eve is a Sunday night.
Yeah, I guess my only thing is who would lead that and put that all together would be my question.
Yeah.
Well, I think if the city, I'm happy to work on it, but I think if the city is going to take the step to say, hey, we want to donate Paul for your use, and we're going to block out this time if that works for you. I mean, Del Arte, obviously, they've got people of imagination and skill, and they could, they're going to be a part of it. But really, it's in my mind, it's the facility and the support, the show of support, and the financial little, even if we don't give them cash money, it's the financial support of here's the building. We're not going to charge you for.
Well, there's the
anything.
building and the staff time to plan and coordinate.
Yeah, yeah.
What,
I mean,
what,
it's
why
not
don't,
clear up.
maybe a good first step would be for you to go to Del Arte and ask them what their time frame as far as an event is, and would they have someone that could
Yeah, the capacity.
help put it on if the building was donated? That might be a good first step.
Because I'm sure
Is
the
the
city
building
would.
available
That's
on New
a
Year's?
Well, we have to
Sunday,
talk.
so
That's probably an
probably.
Emily question.
Yeah, we just did
Mhm.
our December calendar, and I don't think we have anything on that Sunday.
I'm sure if there were plans for something, the city wouldn't be opposed to donating the building for that day. I think it's just
Right.
coming up with the plan and all
Exactly.
that is really the big.
that takes a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Need the planning bits because
Yeah.
they're the imagination, dream machine. So
How big is their staff right now to do that or
They have a
volunteer?
staff of 3.
Three.
Yeah.
still have a lot of
Maybe
kids.
4. They have a 4. They have an office
Okay.
person and 3
'Cause
leadership people.
To put on even if a New Year's Eve ball this short of notice,
They're pretty, yeah.
Well, let's just have the band.
it is a very big lift. Finding a band that will attract people selling.
Time getting bands
Yeah.
people to on that short notice.
Yeah.
They're probably already booked. So I mean, I'm
Absolutely.
voting for I like the Valentine's Day thing.
Hmm.
Well,
Let's
and
bring
the
it
thing
time,
is, as long as Del Arte and the community knows that this is what we're willing to do, we could plan something in early spring.
Yeah.
And then the community would know that the city is behind, and support. They want to support, and so I don't think you want to put on something that is not going to be well put together because we didn't have enough time, like the band or advertising and yeah, because
I don't know. I think there's a million reasons not to, but we have a couple really solid reasons to do it.
oh no, I'm not
So,
saying not to do it.
Well, and maybe knowing that if it was something that was like a Valentine,
totally do.
knowing that that's what's on the agenda and moving forward, that's showing that support that the city's working towards.
Okay, can we, I don't know.
It's not true because that was just their personal goal, but they have about a year to pay what they need to pay, is what I understand.
I think that they had set a deadline of New Year's, the end of the year, because maybe that their fiscal year is through the end of September.
Mm.
So I don't even think their budget. They shouldn't be budgeting on a calendar year, as far as I know. So I don't know the details of how hard a deadline it is, but I think supporting Del Arte is definitely something the city of Blue Lake should do. Um, I don't know that we're going to be there's the capacity. I don't know that there's the capacity to coordinate something in the next 2 months.
6 weeks,
Six,
really.
yeah,
Well, and
6
Yeah.
months.
if the goal, the end goal is to raise the money to support them, you'd really want to put some thought and effort into what you're doing. You wouldn't just want to do it just to show support and
It's
raise
not a
five
bake.
hundred
Yeah.
dollars.
Do we want to do a bake
It's
sale,
yeah,
or do we want to do
right.
something that is like a party where people buy
Yeah,
tickets that are going
That
to
gives
support the
them
event,
time to
and
reach out with
you
media.
get
That
time
gives
to
the
track
city time,
yeah,
and it's
silent
and
auction
people can
items.
plan.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Donate
Even a
cool
May ball or
auction.
something like
Yeah.
This is certainly something that we can put on a future agenda.
yeah.
But it's getting a little bit into the weeds as far as what the discussion item number 6 is here. And I
Mhm.
do think it's something we need to do and support. I don't feel like I have the capacity personally or to do something today or even make a decision to do so. But I think the idea it is can percolate, and we can look at putting on something maybe in the first quarter of 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not getting the impression that the city's not wanting to help in the best way that we can or that they can, but
I mean, there was the
I
event at the
agree.
tap room. That was a fundraiser. I am not privy to what the chamberment is doing, but
I don't think the city's support is in question.
No,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah.
and if they are seriously in jeopardy of closing all their doors by the end of the fiscal year for real forever, then whatever we can do in the next 6 weeks is a good gesture. But I mean, I think we can put something together in the first quarter
Hmm.
and do it have
I
hopefully
agree.
time to do it right.
Good for
But
you.
it's
Yeah, I
definitely
agree.
more of a future agenda item. We're already an hour and a half into this meeting, and we're only on item 6. Is there any more to add to the item 6 discussion about downtown vacancies and underutilized retail commercial properties?
Oh, no, I don't have anything.
And we have had public comment, and now we can move on to item 7.
So this is, I usually provide you guys an update on how these projects are progressing. Um, this is, there's a lot going on in the Powers Creek district. I just did this same spiel to public safety last night, so I'm gonna feel a little bit like deja vu. Um, we are, there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of good progress being made. The RV park and campground project is still being kind of packaged and looked at as far as releasing it out to get some feedback from potential investors, industry leaders to see kind of what people's reactions are in the industry to the project, and if the project that we're proposing is on track, if it's kind of if it's too big, too small, out of whack, on track, if there'll be interest. So we're working on that. um, Bottawat Community Project is moving forward through the environmental process and the design components to make sure that it's meeting the zoning regulations. We're doing a lot of work right now on traffic and the roadscape. That Taylor Way is a big, wide, straight stretch right now, and in order to facilitate development for this project, it needs to have an a managed turn around area, so a roundabout. We need different parking. We're looking at some layouts using a walkability traffic expert named Dan Burden. We were able to secure some grant funding through HCOG to pay for his services to look at Taylor Way, so that we're creating, as development comes in, we're creating a safe and attractive and uh, interactive space that works for all development in the area. So, in looking at kind of the master planning, of uses and ideas, traffic and ingress egress is a real critical step. So Dan's been able to provide some really great options and ideas. Our engineers have been able to take those concepts and be able to model those to make sure that the circulation patterns can be met and that turn radiuses can be maintained. So those are being and have been reviewed by the fire district and other interested parties looking at size and scape of different vehicles. So that's all ongoing, and that project should be going to the Planning Commission in upcoming months. We're moving ahead at the same time with our housing element, which is it kind of goes hand in hand for development funding.
Is the Ottawa Community Project the housing development, or is that just
Yeah.
the general Taylor
So
Way?
the
That's
Bottawa, yeah. So the council adopted the name Bottawat Community
great.
Project for the overall development of that. So that's the affordable housing project, the live work units, and then the retail commercial space.
Cool. Thank you.
And as part of that, I don't think I have it in here, but
The word project at the end, really?
I can't
I think it's
remember.
just Ottawa
A
Community.
community. So it should be a lowercase p, right, Elizabeth?
I guess.
Um,
I just scratched it off.
If anyone's been down to Taylor Way in the last week, you'll see that the bike park has started. Construction on that project started this weekend, and they've graded the site. The drop-in is constructed, and right now we've tarped the different piles of dirt because of the rain. But the guys plan to come back out and keep constructing that, so that's really exciting
That's
to
awesome.
see. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Our guys, maintenance, doing that.
No, so I mean, the city has been working on it, in different, just in different aspects of, just managing the BMPs for any type of runoff and different things. But as far as construction, Tavis Kane, who has BMB,
Yeah.
he is donating his time. He went and he's also donating equipment, and
Cool.
he
That's awesome.
brought in some friends who are like professional motocross track builders and bike park builders. So they have been down. Peppy donated, he brought a cat over, an excavator, and a loader.
Fantastic.
He also gave us a bunch of materials and hauled materials. I mean, it's been amazing to just see them, like all the interested parties down there, because they're all property owners in the district as well, who really believe in recreation and the development. And they're spending a lot of time and resources to
That's
do
super
this for the
exciting.
community. So yeah, it's really neat to see it coming together. So right now we have the resources to build the dirt track. We don't have the resources yet to build the pump track, but that'll come in the future.
What's the timeline?
I'm not really sure. I think if they had another week, they could probably get the track in. And then we need to bring in the clay and kind of cap it and form it. And that'll be more of the community side of things. Right now, they're dealing with a lot of equipment. And so Tavis had asked us, I know the community wants to get in there, but let us get in there with the equipment first and get the whole thing formed. They did come in and look at it and go, you know what, we need to flip it. Like with the way the grade is set, we need to flip this so the kids aren't like dropping in and going uphill, that they're dropping in and getting momentum. So these guys are like, they get it.
Oh.
So that was really great. So that's all moving forward.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah, I think it's going to
We're seeing a
be.
lot of hot dog eaters.
There you go.
You might need to take a stand down there.
Yeah.
Um, So we are also working on a master plan and parcel subdivision for the properties on the northern side of Taylor Way, and that's being done with the remaining funds from the grant we received from EDA. That grant funded the design and studies associated with the RV park and campground, but we had about 60,000 left over from that. So they gave us a project extension and are allowing us to finish kind of master planning the remaining properties that the city owns to kind of look at the best way to subdivide those parcels. Also looking at ingress, egress, open space, and then SHN will then do the actual surveying and subdivision. So that's a pretty important piece to all of this, and I'm really happy that we were able to use grant funds to do it because it's fairly, it's about $60,000 30 plus of it will go to surveying and subdivision. That, it's money that the city didn't have to spend, but it's really necessary as we continue to look at development down there.
About how many acres is that? Not including the bike park.
It's probably right around 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then with the bottle what now isn't Danco, like helping with the structure of like the lighting and all of that kind of thing? Are they
Oh,
coming in with
absolutely.
that?
Yeah. So that project, part of the entitlements are also improvements to the trail, lighting, circulation, connectivity. When you build a project, you can't build it in isolation. You have to look at what those impacts are. So one of the things that we looked at right from the get-go was, you have families living down there now. That's kids walking to school. So how are those kids going to safely get from that site to the school? So looking at that connectivity, so paving the trail, making a better connection to Broderick, putting in the lighting so that, we're starting to build connected spaces and we're not building isolated developments. And that's something that's really critical to a walkable and, safe community. And it's very important also to the funding sources.
Are they
Those are
looking
all
at wildlife impacts for the lighting? Because the nesting
no,
birds would be
right.
potentially
So
disturbed by that.
the city, as part of the zoning for that,
The
adopted
dark
the
sky.
International Dark Skies
Hmm.
regulation. So all of our lighting is down lighting. Um, right now,
So
the
they'll
power
keep it.
plant has massive, 100-foot tall lights that light up everything. So these will be pedestrian scale lights and appropriate lighting for buildings. And the Powers Creek Restoration Project is moving forward. We're right at the surveying phase for the final design of that. So the city had to go in and remove some vegetation. The creek is incredibly vegged over. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
we picked up a lot of real estate just because we didn't realize how far back the creek was from the trail. And when we found, I was like, my gosh, we could build the pump track here. So that was kind of exciting in a way that we actually gained a lot of footprint. So the surveyors had to actually get into the creek bed and be able to shoot the grade from point to point, um, and so there was a lot of vegetation removal as part of that. So they're finalizing the design. It's slated to go to construction in the spring of 2024. It's fully funded. We received an additional almost $200,000 on that project, so that project budget is up over $900,000.
Is the
So
What's it
construction
gonna look like? Yeah, what's the construction?
what's that?
Well, look,
Yeah.
maybe you can share what the construction will look like.
Well, I mean,
Are you talking about creek restoration?
Powers Creek,
yeah.
the
So
restoration.
so basically what they're going to go do is they're going to remove all the invasive vegetation, which is probably 95% of what's there. They're going to go in and remove a lot of sediment and gravel and stuff that's, built up over the years. They're going to go ahead and put in probably some large woody debris installations to be able to create some habitat, so areas where the water can scour and create some little pools. And the problem with Powers Creek obviously is it's very seasonal. It's very, very restricted and confined, and you have a very narrow footprint to work within. So it's really working within, because it's found on both sides by private properties. And then, going through the city, it's bound, by concrete walls and different things. So, but there's a lot of opportunity to go in there and, restore it back to at least a space where it's providing habitat value.
So, what? It would go from where it joins the Mad River behind the casino, up behind the arena, up through town, and then up to.
Goes all the way up above Davis.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Was
But we're not restoring that part. We're only restoring the part on the city's part down there.
Okay.
So from
Okay.
just below Hatchery Road to Gary Johnson's property. But there's another application that's being submitted for Gary's property as well. So we're
Wow.
just kind of working our way up. And eventually, we'll get up to town. And that's one of the projects that we were very interested in when we purchased the town square was being
Right.
able to restore that section because those walls are actually failing. And there's an opportunity. So we've designed the town square to be able to remove those walls and bench it back and make it more of a natural break versus this hard, linear obstruction in the creek. So, but it is a fish bearing stream. It's got high habitat value. It's got all kinds of wildlife that traverses it. So I think it'll be a really good project. And I think people will be surprised once they can actually see the creek
Mm-hmm.
too,
Yeah.
because it's like I said, we gained a lot of ground when
Did you find any bears back there?
I no, we did not, but there's
Okay.
a lot of bear scat.
I did want to mention that I'm working on some watershed restoration projects on Noisy Creek, Hall Creek, Lindsay Creek, and also the idea is to take it all the way up to Blue Lake
Mhm.
and do the whole watershed for the Mad River.
Yeah, that's great.
And
Super
so we're
exciting.
putting in an application through Trout Unlimited is putting in for
Oh, great.
yeah.
That's really cool.
So
All in conjunction.
Yeah.
yeah, so that's it. Mandy's been nice enough and to be supportive that that she's all gonna thinks it would be good to have it come up all the way to Blue Lake. And because it does, it feeds all the way down.
Yeah.
Well, TU's doing a whole Lower Mad proposal
Hmm.
pretty soon here.
Well, that's
Yeah, because they
maybe
did the one
And
at the
and
mouth,
Who?
Trout
Trout
Unlimited.
Unlimited.
Oh,
Ah,
TU.
very exciting.
TU.
so
I knew that.
they're doing it. Is this the same one? Because they're turning it in.
It's similar, but it encompasses the whole Lower Mad as well.
Yes.
From my understanding,
Yes, that's the one that
all
we're
the way to the
working on.
mouth.
Yeah.
But they just did
Okay.
one to the
Yeah,
mouth.
and so it takes in the Lindsay Creek and goes all the way to Noisy Creek, which comes out.
Isn't that like Glendale?
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
I think
the
you're
one
talking
that
about the
they're
same
working on.
thing.
Yeah.
To the mouth though of the Mad River.
I
Yeah.
think so. I think
Okay.
that they're just basically at this point, we were they applied last year for us, but it wasn't big enough.
Hmm.
And so then they were told that we needed to expand it. And so that's why we wanted to incorporate all Mad River.
Hmm.
That's cool.
Because they did do Trout Unlimited did that project at the mouth already.
Right.
So
Has a construction company been chosen for Powder
no,
Creek?
it'll go out to bid.
It will go to
Yeah.
bid. And I was gonna say it might be interesting to have Isabel come in and do like a 10-minute presentation for us on
Yeah.
the scope of the project, so everyone can get a good
Be
understanding of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because this is something that would kind of tie into that trail as an economic driver
Oh,
too.
it's
'Cause the river
huge.
access is one of the
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that the Great Redwood
Mhm.
Trail Agency is looking at as an
And it's
important.
amazing how
Mhm.
many coho we have in our little creeks.
Yeah.
And they're fighting so hard to be able to get up and spawn and with all of the obstacles,
Yeah.
they still
Amazing.
make it. And it's going to be really nice to make that so that it's a lot easier for them to get up there and do their thing. And
Yeah. And what an amazing feature for that development over there, to be, there's been all this talk about, oh, you're locating, people in this, poverty pocket and all these things and next to these industrial, it's like, to have that creek restored and have that interaction and connection to that space and a trail and a horse arena and a bike park and, the rivers right there. I mean, it's going to really be spectacular in
Yeah.
so many ways. I think the creek restoration, we've been working on this for a really long time and it's just going to it's going to elevate that space by a huge degree and just being able to interact with that creek and see. I mean, as a kid, we used to dam it up and swim our horses in it, and I mean, it just, every kid in Blue Lake played in that
The
creek and
back and
swam it.
beyond. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's been sad to see it get to this state. Um, and so I think people will really be surprised when they see what its potential actually really
yeah,
is.
run longer in the summer
Absolutely. Yeah.
if you scour some of
Yeah.
that stuff out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, because it goes subsurface in so many areas. And it's
Ah.
just like it'll be flowing at the post office and it'll be dry at the horse arena.
Mhm.
It's dropping down somewhere. So there's a lot of hydrology that's taking place that'll be interesting to see how this affects it. I think
Mhm.
that's all I have on.
Okay.
Oh, I should say, Tasha and Kenny Eisner will be coming before the council at the November meeting to proposed signing the exclusive negotiating agreement for the city courtyard. And they are interested in doing something very similar to what Dan and Lacey Comer had proposed, where, a mixed use development, recreation, food, retail, commercial on the bottom floor, and a couple stories of living space. Um, they own Humboldt Sanitation and I think Tasha and Tavis are brother and sister.
Mm.
Tavis has the property across with B&B. I think Tasha also is part of that. So they're very connected to Blue Lake and are really excited about development potential and really see the development opportunities here and want to stay and invest more. So that's really exciting.
How long do those exclusive right to negotiate
I have
agreements
to
tend
look at
run?
I have, I
I
can't remember
imagine
what the
it's
term is.
it's
I mean,
long
but
enough for
there's,
them to do the due diligence they need to
yeah,
do.
I mean, there's performance standards as part of it. So you can't just sign the ENA and then sit on it and tie up property. The goal is for you to pull the property basically off the market for enough time to be able to do your due diligence. It costs money. There's a lot of resources that go into that. So you don't want to get into a position where, the city says, oh, thanks, we just got a better offer and we're going to do something different. So it just puts us on a level, reciprocal playing ground, for looking at development potential. But they're really nice people, very well established business people. That property had a recent appraisal. It appraised pretty high, and they were okay with that.
Okay.
And
Even
so
with interest rates being where they
I
are.
know that's what I was like. We got the appraisal
Humboldt
and the interest
Sanitation,
rates went up at the same time. So
That's stable business right there.
You sell that piece?
that'll be up to the council, but that is what I would recommend. And that
Recommend that.
it's too small of a piece to hang on to for a developer to put that much money in and not own the land. So it makes sense to let it go. And the way it would be,
Roofing.
I know you too. The way it
I
would
want
be,
the siding.
I want the roofing. I want the tin roofing.
yeah.
That'll help with
So the way it,
offset the
Darcy and I
cost.
will take down the
yeah,
building.
you guys can
You can
salvage
auction
it.
off the spare parts
Yeah,
as a
so it would
fundraiser.
be structured in a way that the city is guaranteed to get a project. So we wouldn't sell the property up front. We would hold that property until it could even be up to the point of occupancy or
Great.
substantial completion or something. That way we know. It also helps the developer too. If they don't want to put up the cash all at once and then come back, it kind of that can be tough to be able to get your secondary construction financing and all of that. So, looking at leveraging it to be kind of a partner to the development and then guaranteeing that we get something that's, what the city is looking for. And then the guys from Paradise K are in the same position. They came in last week and are excited to keep moving forward with their proposal
Great.
for the property behind their location.
Couple of rentals.
Yeah, I think they're looking at, 4 or 6 to start, and they're kind of smaller condoed units, the way they kind of envision them. So they would be a 2-story building or 2 or 3-story. I think it's just 2 because of the height restriction there. So it's like 2 apartments on the top, and then the bottom's commercial retail production space.
Oh,
But they would propose to condo those so that you could buy them in individual units. So they kind of
Okay.
sit on one piece of property, but you basically split them vertically, which is kind of a cool idea, especially for small businesses. You could be like, hey, I at least have rental income coming in, so it makes my downstairs commercial production, whatever,
yeah.
it kind of eases some of that burden.
So
So
they're not looking to manage those.
they would be looking to sell them.
Okay.
Yeah, which I think is really cool too, because then you just,
You
you get
get-
more businesses
Yeah.
and
Sure.
yeah, it's
So
kind of a
pride of ownership.
diversification.
Yeah.
Right of ownership.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a good concept and they want to, move forward with that as well.
So there'll be a lot more housing over there in the long
Yeah,
term.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Ryan and Alicia are moving forward with their second phase of development. That'll be going to the Planning Commission possibly next month, I think. So that's, I think,
Behind the building that's,
mhm.
Or so.
why is that empty?
So that they just leased that out to a distributor. So I think it's Pepperidge Farms.
Nice
You're kidding.
distributor.
unloading down
Yeah.
there.
Interesting.
Yeah. Frito-Lay wanted to buy the Courtyard and put
Really?
a Frito-Lay distribution center in. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Like,
interesting. Well,
like 6
Miller
years ago.
Farms used
Frito-Lay,
to grow
Frito-Lay's
potatoes
been
for
looking.
Frito-Lay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's all
weird.
related.
I think Frito-Lay's been
It's
looking
all
for a
related.
space for a while.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I was so thankful. I mean, no offense to Frito-Lay,
How
but
much space do
the
they need?
council
They
said
need like
no, thank God.
warehouse space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just need distribute. It's like,
That's so
you
funny.
go in, load up,
Wow.
trucks leave.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
The warehouse
We don't
spaces,
need
it
more
doesn't
trucks.
really create a lot of revenue
none.
and
No.
jobs.
No.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's very, very limited.
Okay,
And thankfully,
gotcha.
the city was very smart, the council
Mhm.
at the time, and said thank you, but no thank you. Thank God.
Mhm.
Because it just,
I like
yeah.
the idea of
Farms
people.
are
We need
viable.
housing.
Yeah.
Well, and a live work unit there with the
Mhm.
retail, I think it's more attractive than a warehouse.
Yeah, and it keeps people in the district as well. It keeps people circulating. It's eyes on the street.
Yeah.
It's just creates vibrancy. It creates more opportunity for small business.
Mhm.
It's like if you have that many people living there, guess what? Like a little
They need
shop
hot
makes
dogs.
sense,
Yeah.
like,
Hot dogs.
yeah.
Well, and that's the goal for that area is to
Mhm.
promote it into that
Yeah,
side of
yeah,
things, not keep it.
that's true.
Much so. It's all very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So the last thing is just I provided you guys this. This is from 1997. This was a community visioning plan, and I'm kind of giving it to everyone because I know there's some commentary
Mm.
in the community about that a lot of what we're doing is my personal vision for Blue Lake. And
Gotcha.
even though I really wholeheartedly support, the majority of what we're doing, and I'm really proud of the work that we're doing, these aren't my ideas. These are ideas and concepts that have been being worked on for a really long time basically since we lost the timber industry, the community's really been struggling to try and figure out which direction we can go to make sure that our city is stable and that it's, a great place to live. So this was done in 1997, and there was a lot of
Funny.
work that went into this. A lot of people participated. I think it was a U.S. Forest Service grant. But it was really looking at what is the future of Blue Lake. And I think it's exciting to look at it and see the path we're on today is a path that they saw in 1997. So looking at an RV
Yeah.
park and campground, trails, recreation development, restoration of the creek is even in there,
I love
better
this.
connection to the Mad River.
Number 7, secrets to coping with change in small
It's
towns.
just- The same struggles.
That's really
That's
that's really
it's
funny.
just really funny.
Yeah.
Full circle.
It
Yeah.
really is full
Yeah.
circle with some
Yeah.
big steps forward.
Yep.
Lot
And
of trust.
projects take a long time, especially when
Yeah.
you're transitioning
Yeah.
economies. But to start to see some of these come to fruition, to be able to check off the Annie and Mary Trail,
This,
to
this is
Yeah.
really
You're right.
Yeah.
neat thing to be able to pass
Yeah.
out to some naysayers.
yeah,
It's like,
it gives me a little bit of cover.
yes.
You know what I mean? Like this isn't
So
just
they-
my idea.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, so I wanted you guys to have that too, just so that
That's
as
great.
a
That's great.
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think it's
Like,
Thank
helpful.
you.
I'll have to read through that.
Yeah. And there might be some new ideas and things that, we can start to look at or incorporate or, not everything is
Downtown
completely
development.
Yes. Grocery
Downtown.
store, restaurant, gift shops.
Now, were any of these completed?
You
Some
can
of
look.
this stuff
Yeah.
is.
Like water tower access through private property, Hatchery Road through Simpson, link to Arcata, Buckley Road off of Blue Lake Waterfall,
No,
upriver trails.
No.
no.
None of those ever.
No, but we have the
Great
Annie and
Redwood
Mary
Trail.
Trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a huge
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
And the Great Redwood Trail.
Yeah.
I think a trail to Sweezy Dam would be really cool.
Yeah.
But that's a story.
Mm.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's about all I have.
There's a lot.
Yeah, this is actually
That's
something
really
like
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
feel free to photocopy and answer
So
them.
do we have a chamber report today?
You know what? Emily was going to be here,
the-
but she's sick.
Oh
And
no.
so she made it as far as she could
Oh.
And
today.
she went to the chamber meeting yesterday.
Yeah, and she's on the chamber. So Emily's actually the vice president of the
Yeah.
chamber.
So
So
track down your
Oh, is she
chamber
the
member.
president?
Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
Things change fast.
Now maybe we can change Annie Mary date.
yeah, there you go.
Oh, Sunday.
That's going on. Okay, so there's no chamber report
museum
today.
memories.
Yeah. Mandy, do you
I
have a
have-
city manager and staff
I think
report at
that
this
I
point?
think
We've
I've hit
covered
everything.
it. Covered it. And announcements. There were
Darcy.
announcements. Darcy has something.
Yeah, so Linda Cooley and Carly and their other friend were cruising through by the doghouse and stopped to chat and Linda was going, God, we just really need to brainstorm how to get people to Blue Lake, when it's not sunny Blue Lake, when it's winter Blue Lake.
Mm.
And so we just sort of had a little chat session, and a thing I came up with was a progressive dinner,
Well, that's good.
maybe in January.
Mhm.
And I just think Blue Lake's the perfect size town for a progressive dinner. So that's something where you may, for instance, start at Blue Lake Pizza for an appetizer.
Okay.
Come to the Doghouse for soup and salad, or soup and salad. Go to the brewery for your entree. Maybe go to the Lager for dinner or for dessert. Maybe Natalie's there
Yeah,
for
Natalie's been
dessert,
doing
or
loads of
maybe you just
pop-up
have a
there.
cocktail. You could also involve other, like the
The resource
whatever
center.
store, the resource center,
There could be something here.
the
Keiko could do
Lindstrom
it evening.
store,
Mhm. Yeah, a broader kind of thing like the Taste of Blue Lake, but more dispersed.
a taste of Blue Lake. Yeah.
Well, and the thing
Like a
is,
top crawl for
Right.
food.
we're known for our desserts at the Wanaka Club.
Oh yeah.
There you
So
go.
that could be
So
maybe
the
a
museum
Oh, the
could be a
museum.
stop.
Mhm.
Ooh.
So, and we were thinking about
Fun.
doing this in January. I mean, why wait around?
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe there's an opportunity to do something at the Del Arte concession stand and bring them into it a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They could do maybe music,
Yeah.
something,
Or a
or
performance.
Or a
performance.
performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Singing, cocktail service or something. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then if
I like that.
somebody wanted to do something in the new kitchen,
Yeah.
or it could all end up with a roller skate,
Oh yeah.
or, I don't know, you
Right.
could, the sky's the limit.
Is this something you'd sell tickets to, or would
Yeah.
that be inclusive?
So
Okay.
some proceeds could go to
Del Arte. I was going to suggest that.
Well, it's
great minds.
when they have the jazz festival in Eureka, they have the Taste of Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that's been pretty successful
Yeah.
over the
Mhm.
years. And
Yeah.
I think we could really make this a lot of fun.
It
I
could be
think
really
so
fun.
too.
Love it. It's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good idea.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah, and Morgan says he can do about 300 jalapeno bacon wrap poppers in his oven.
Do that.
Nice.
He wasn't
Something
there.
like that. So, yeah.
And we are working with the guys from Haywans too. They're interested in taking over
Yeah.
our concessions.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Excellent.
At the stadium.
Wow.
But to offer it also as like a pop-up restaurant. So it could be like takeout family meals or
Yeah.
something, So just to provide an
Good idea.
They have new owners too, right?
Yeah, and they both live in Blue Lake.
There was a
Scott and Matthew.
Yeah, Scott.
Yeah.
So another announcement is that Chamber Mixer is this Thursday from 5:30 to 7 at the at Louis, the former Bowl, and it's the McKinleyville Chamber, so it's a free event. There's usually
We have a saddle club
food and
meeting.
drinks. Yeah,
What
I
is it? Taste of the
Thursday
holidays too in our
5:30 to 7. They're usually fun.
This
love-
Thursday, like 2 days from now?
Yep, the 16th. Is that right?
Yep.
Today's the
Yep,
the
no,
16th.
From
Yeah.
5:30 to 7?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just stuck in a Zoom that's been scheduled for months that there's no budging on if I want to take
Taste of the
certifications.
holidays
And
too.
the
And-
museum,
but
the,
wait.
the museum is having their annual craft fair on
Ooh.
Sunday after
Sunday.
Thanksgiving.
Great.
Wow.
It's usually on Saturday, but the Grange got booked, so we're moved it to Sunday.
What's going on at the Grange?
Oh, there's a party or something.
Somebody had a
We
birthday.
didn't get on the calendar in time. I know. That was my question.
What day
That
is
was
it?
funny.
So
It's on Sunday, the 26th,
11:20.
and there's always some great vendors. The Bug Lady's always there.
Great.
We'll have the gift shop from the museum.
For vendors?
The last meeting we had was last week, and Cynthia said there was maybe one table left.
And how much is the table?
Oh, I think it's like
30.
$35.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause my
it's really
my daughter's
reasonable.
making earrings and she's interested
Mhm.
in doing a craft fair. So
Yep. She should reach out to
I could-
Cynthia. Do you know
yeah.
how to get a hold of Cynthia?
You?
No, we're
Yeah.
talking
Cynthia
Oh,
Bagwell.
Cynthia
Yeah.
Bagwell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can give you her contact information.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
can mention it to her because I think I owe her a call.
And so the Sunday after Thanksgiving
Yep.
is the museum craft fair.
And the Grange always puts on a concession for lunch that day.
Yeah, it's a really nice craft
Mhm.
fair.
Yeah, so it's a really the
We have
vendors
some new
say
ones
it's
this year too.
yeah, the
Um,
vendors say it's one of their best. So
Oh wow.
it's
From
great.
what
Yeah.
time to what time?
It is from 11 to 4 on Sunday, and it's our 12th annual.
Ooh.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that'll be great.
Thank you.
Hmm.
And so we have some future agenda items previously discussed. Is there anything else?
Do you want me to reach out to Isabel and set something up for
Yeah.
a presentation?
Yeah, that'd be good. I have
15
to
minutes, 20 minutes? What, how long?
20
10?
probably.
I mean,
Is that something we should invite public to?
They're
um,
public.
They're always invited to
yeah.
our meeting anyway.
Okay.
It'll be on the agenda.
I just more so meant
Okay.
just for everyone here so you guys could all get a scope of the Powers Creek project and
Yeah.
Yeah.
understand.
That's exciting.
Good.
Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
Very good. It's nice to have
Yeah.
visitors come.
Visitors and stuff.
Yeah. So I don't have to talk the whole time.
Okay, I think at this point we're ready to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'd entertain that motion to adjourn.
I second that.
Darcy's first.
Do,
There's
do we have a date for our next meeting?
It's always this.
It'll be the
Second
second
Okay.
Tuesday.
Yep.
And
If I hang up somewhere in your
so
travels.
there's the first, a second. I think we are adjourned.
what time is it?
6:32.
6:30.